Hi, everybody. My name is Jennifer Wilson, and I'm the Director of Programming and Advocacy with NEMA, and I'm joined by my colleague, Heather Riggs. Thank you so much for joining us today for this PAG discussion with the RACCS team. I'm going to hand it right over to our RACCS chair, Emily Pierce, for our introductions.
Thanks, Jen. Apologies all for the lack of video. This is what my face looks like, so just pretend it's speaking. As Jen said, I am Emily Pierce. I'm the chair of the Registrar and Collections Care Specialist Group, RACCS, for the New England Museum Association, NEMA, so get your acronym straight. And I'm so excited today to invite our wonderful colleague, Charlotte, to speak to us about academic museums and making the collections accessible for people. Charlotte is a museum professional with more than 10 years of hands-on experience working with collections. She has a variety of work experience and knowledge and a wide range of skills and abilities. She holds a Master's of Art and Museum Studies from Johns Hopkins University in the Krieger School of Arts and Sciences Advanced Academics Program. She joined the Housatonic Museum of Art in the great state of Connecticut in December 2022 as their first full-time collections manager. And we're, again, so excited to have Charlotte with us today. And with that, Charlotte, I will hand it to you.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here. I hope you're all doing well and staying cool as the weather continues to warm. Today I wanted to talk to you all about the impact of collection digitization and the impact that can have on any museum, but specifically museums within academic institutions. That is where I am, and that's where I have been for much of my career. So I know them pretty well at this point. So I'd like to talk to you all a little bit about the digitization efforts that our museum, the Housatonic Museum of Art, has made in the last couple of years to show you just what's possible when working at a small museum with a limited budget and a limited staff, as so many museums these days have. So I'm going to skip to the next one. So a little bit about the Housatonic Museum of Art. We are located on the campus of Connecticut State Community College Housatonic, which is located in Bridgeport, Connecticut, as Emily mentioned. We are a museum staff of 2. There's the director and myself. And we get our budget from the state. We are a state entity. So a little bit different than many museums. Many independent museums are nonprofits. We do have nonprofit status through the college's foundation, which does allow us to apply for grants, thankfully, because those are very important. And we have a collection of about 7,000 objects. About 10% of that is paintings, and then half of that collection is works on paper. The core of our collection is modern and contemporary American and European art. The founder of our museum, Bert Chernow, was an artist himself in the 60s, 70s, 80s. He also was an art professor here at the college and really wanted the students here to experience art every day. Part of our mission is to make sure that every student that steps onto our campus interacts or views an artwork every single time they come on campus. So our campus is the museum. We make use of all the hallways, the student gathering places, and we do have a white cube gallery that you see in the upper right-hand corner here, called the Bert Chernow Gallery after our founder, Bert. That is where we have our rotating special exhibitions. We're working on our exhibition calendar. We're probably doing 3 special exhibitions a year. Right now we have the making of an icon, Walter Yosh, and sports photography in that gallery. But we also do exhibitions in our other building, Beacon Hall. In the lower left, you see installations from a exhibition of a New Haven artist named Kim Weston, who is an Afro-Indigenous artist. We acquired 3 of the 8 photographs that she lent for this show, so she's now represented in our collection, which is fabulous. And then we do a lot of community engagement. So in the, I guess, lower center, you'll see the students whose show just opened 2 weeks ago. They are from they're from the Bridgeport community, and they work with us and their mentors to learn about making art. They make paintings and do photography. And the idea is sort of to give them a creative outlet that they might not get in their everyday lives. So that's just a bit about us and the work that we do here. So to start up talking about our digitization process, I wanted to show you what our website used to look like. It no longer looks like this now, but this was what our online presence was when our director, Dr. Jennifer Reynolds Kay, started about coming up on 2 years, I think, a little over 2 years. And when I started about 1.5 years ago. So there was a lot of information on this website, which was great, but it wasn't super organized. Some stuff outdated, some new stuff, and it was not super user-friendly to update. So this page is our collections page, which gives you a nice description of what's in our collection, the artists represented, key dates, what the collection is made up of. But there was no way to search our collection. So that obviously limits what can be done with the collection. Faculty here and at other institutions across the state, the region, the country won't know what's in our collection and how they can use those for classes. Students can't pick an object to write a research paper about. And then academics and just members of the public won't know what's here. And, they're not as driven to come to the museum if they can't get a sense of what they're going to experience when they come physically on site. And this probably looks familiar to many of you. This is Past Perfect, the museum collections management software, which until quite recently, the Housatonic Museum of Art used. I've used this CMS in many other museums that I've worked in, historical societies that I've worked for, and it's great. It's a really good option for a small museum, folks with a limited budget, and really just looking to have an inventory of their collection and to track, the objects as they move around. There are tools for creating exhibitions, doing loans, other typical tools within a CMS. I personally didn't find them super intuitive. So I've never really made use of them. And I know there is a Past Perfect online, which I can't speak to because I haven't used. But what I do know is that Past Perfect, using Past Perfect across multiple staff within a museum can be really challenging. It doesn't really like being on a network. So you either have to have a desktop or computer in your museum storage spaces, or lug your laptop while you're also trying to move objects, which can be precarious. So that creates its own challenge, and it's difficult to access remotely, as so many of us now do some work remotely. So that was one of the first things that one of the first challenges I worked with IT on when I got here, because I knew I needed to be able to access the database from home. So, with all those challenges in mind, we knew that we wanted to get the collection online and be able to access the database or the CMS anywhere, whether it was from laptops, iPads, phones, and it just turned out that PassPerfect was not right for us. What's not shown here in this screenshot, excuse me, is the photography of objects that we had when both Jennifer and I came in, which was pretty much just documentary photography, which again is totally fine for internal use. You know what the object looks like when you go looking for it, but it's not exactly the kind of photography that you want to show the world and draw in crowds. So that was also something that we were thinking about. So before myself and Jennifer came in, our director emerita, Robin Zella, was here for I think 25 years and did an incredible job with the collection just generally, but also as the only full-time staff here. I was really impressed when I came in that the database was really nicely filled out, storage was really well organized, but she before our time, she recognized a similar lack of high resolution photography and knew what a difference that would make for an eventual online collection, not even mentioning exhibition publications, marketing material, social media, all of these other outlets that we would make use of these high res photography photographs. So she had the foresight to submit an application to the IMLS Inspire grant and was awarded roughly $40,000 to begin digitizing the museum's collection. So I just want to pause and thank Robin for her efforts on this project. She really did a Herculean task. IMLS, any grants applications are tough for anyone. So we're really grateful that she had the foresight to put this application in. Our current director, Jennifer, and I took over the project when Robin retired, but she really laid the foundation for our success. And I want to make sure that she gets that credit because that was a lot of work. So like many of you here, as I mentioned, we work on a very limited budget, and we would not have been able to do this project without those grant funds. In addition to those, we were fortunate to receive $5,000 through the CT Cultural Fund Operating Support Grant, which is run through CT Humanities. Our migration fee to our new collection management system, Connecticut Collections, was cut in half by grants provided by CT Humanities and the National Historic Publications and Records Commission. So that's a lot of different funding sources, and at the end of the project, I'm pretty sure that we didn't put any of our own operating funds into this project. So grants are your best friend. Apply. It's a lot of work, but it's definitely worth it in the long run if you are successful. Oops, sorry, wrong slide. Okay, so what was our actual project? So there are a few different phases of the digitization. The first was photographing. So Jennifer and I sort of sat down before bringing anyone in and said, what is the part of our collection that makes the most sense to photograph first? And our core, like I said, is the modern and contemporary US and European mostly abstraction, but other areas, other art movements, paintings. So we have about 700 paintings in our collection, and we felt that these were probably they're going to be the most sought after in terms of research or loans, exhibitions, that kind of thing. And we had some of the highest priority pieces in our paintings collection. So it made the most sense for the two of us, from our point of view, to start there. Using the IMLS funds, we hired a photographer, Paul Motino, who you see on the left-hand side, and a art handler, Grant Johnston, on the right, taking a painting down in our storage room. I, along with the two of them, we set aside 4 weeks in, I think it was February or March, to just push through and get the entire paintings collection photographed. So from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Grant and I were pulling paintings, lining them up for Paul, and he was just going through and snapping high-res photography of each piece. There were obviously paintings that posed challenges. So ahead of this project, I worked with Patty Garland, who is a paintings conservator, to remove frames on a bunch of these pieces. You can see in the very edge of the picture of Grant, a nice gold gilded frame. And those pose challenges for the photographer. They can cast shadows on the painting itself. So anything with a really big, heavy duty, deep frame, we removed and, kept them safe until it was time to photograph, and got some really beautiful shots. And it gave me a chance to see, what these paintings are looking like out of their frames. So that was the first sort of step to getting into this project. So in the 4 weeks of the project, the three of us processed and photographed approximately 700 paintings. I will say it was definitely a grind. And there were points where I think all of us were physically exhausted, and just like, how are there still more paintings to go? But it was absolutely worth it for the results. So here is an example of our outcome. Hopefully you can tell which is the high-res image and which is the documentary photograph that we started with. This is one of our most prized paintings. It is called Carolina Red by Romare Bearden. It's quite small, actually, but I think with the high-res image, if you were able to, I don't have it up here, but if you were able to zoom in and out, you'd be able to tell that, these figures and a lot of the aspects of this painting are actually collage. So it really gives you more of a sense of the texture, the medium, even the matrix of the painting, whether it's on board, on canvas, on wood in this case. So the result was immediate. Just internally being able to look at these was amazing. It made such a difference. So that was really exciting when we finally got the files back from Paul after he did some cropping and editing a little bit. So I'm just gonna pause here and grab some water. Okay, so what you see here is phase 2 of our project. This is our new collection management software called CT Collections, Kinetic Collections, which is hosted through Collective Access, which I think you can see up on the, yeah, okay. up on the upper left. So they are a national company. I know that there's another group of folks, I think out in, I want to say in Michigan, using this CMS in a similar way that we are here in Connecticut. So just to give you a little bit of background, CT Collections is it's part of Connecticut League of Museums. So there's 2 staff members here in Connecticut who manage this project, and it works sort of as a like a cohort of museums and historical societies across the state who use CT Collections as their CMS. But what I'll show you in a little bit is the public portal. So you can search across all of these collections within Connecticut and see, who has, objects or collection material relating to Mark Twain, because we have the Mark Twain House here in Connecticut. So it's a really great sort of collective, and we wanted to be a part of that and hopefully increase our reach. But getting back to the CMS, this is incredibly user-friendly. It can be accessed anywhere because it is a cloud-based software. So I can access it here on campus. I can access it remotely. I just need to log in through, whatever browser I use, and everything's there. So that was already a huge improvement from Past Perfect. And rather than having to have, again, like a computer in each museum storage space or lugging around my laptop, I can pull out my phone and, just pull up a browser, log into it, check locations, edit an object right there in the moment. We also have a one iPad that we can use. So I've been using that more because it's lighter than the iPad. It's it's just easy to get in quickly into the database and update what you need. So you don't have to make notes and say, okay, when I get back to my desk, I have to change these 5 locations. I need to check the date, that the date matches with the date that's on the painting. So, you don't have to worry about, oh shoot, I forgot to change that. It's all done right there in the moment. So that was amazing and incredibly convenient. I will say that migrating was difficult. Past Perfect and CT Collections didn't map quite right. So there was a lot of adjusting that went in the back end. So we worked really closely with the CT Collections team, as well as the Whirligig team, who are sort of the software managers for this program. But I think it was absolutely worth it in the long run. I do still like maybe once every couple weeks refer back to Past Perfect because something didn't get mapped over correctly, or I changed something in Past Perfect after the migration, and so things are still being cleaned up. But thankfully I still have Past Perfect to refer back to. So I would say absolutely keep, if you're doing sort of a migration to like a web-based CMS, keep your data as long as you possibly can, because it really helps with troubleshooting. But I think for us in our access goals, the best part of CT Collections is the public portal, which is here. So this is the landing page for the Housatonic Museum of Art. We went live earlier this summer. I think it was in May. So that was a very exciting and huge, tick off the to-do list. So the entirety of our collection, our 7,000 objects, are now searchable on the portal. There is still and always will be database cleanup that needs to happen for so many of the records. But, you know, it was a conversation between myself and Jennifer, and we decided, let's just put everything on the portal, warts and all, because we'd rather it all be there at once and give the visitor a good idea of what we have in our collection, rather than, you know, upload 20 objects this week, 20 objects next week. And, you know, people are not going to get a holistic view of your collection if you do it in that way. So I'm working my way through records, cleaning them up, and hopefully, you know, we have a couple interns that can help us with that. So I'm gonna also just, hopefully this works if I click the link so you guys can see what the database looks like. Here we go. So this is our page of the public portal. You can browse all the objects. Again, we still have documentary photography for a lot of things, but our paintings are looking great. If we go into a record, we get the old documentary photography, but we also get these wonderful high-res images that you can really, you know, scroll in and see. I mean, you can even see like the brush strokes and, you know, all the details. So it's really great to have that. And then you can go to a map and see all of the museums across the state who are participating in CT collections. So, you know, there's some hot spots around the state, and then there's the, you know, the more rural historical studies or museums, but it's wonderful that you can search all of them and see what we all have. So that's been really, really fun to sort of explore and, you know, see how that might affect our users. All right, where am I here? Get back in here. Set up again. So yeah, that gives you just a quick sense of the portal. And in addition to now being on the portal, we also have recently launched our redesigned HMA website, which you know, it wasn't necessarily done in tandem with this project, but I call it like phase 3 of our digitization efforts. So this is just a couple of screenshots from the new website, and credit where credit's due. Jennifer worked tirelessly on this project with a website designer to once again migrate all the data that was on, and it was a lot of data that was on our old website to this new website. And I'm especially excited because we now have a collections page that will link directly, or does link directly, to CT collections. I'm really eager to see how being now on the portal with so many museums across the state, as well as having this new website, will increase our viewership, our what's the word I'm looking for? You know, you know, folks interacting with the collection. So, and I'm hoping that this will increase scholarship, loans, programming with our collection. The possible next phase that we have, you know, thrown around but haven't done any concrete steps towards would be to create a object study classroom specifically for the students here at CT State Housatonic. But, you know, you know, it could broaden. It would be amazing to do so. I used to work at the Yale Center for British Arts study room, so I saw firsthand how impactful interacting with objects in person and close up can be for a student, a researcher, faculty, staff, members of the public. and Jennifer has a strong education background. So this is something that kind of we both feel is really important. But at the moment, classes can visit our rotating special exhibitions in the turnout galleries, or any other hallway displays that we have around campus. But we don't really have a workflow or regular classroom space to share much of the rest of our collection. Like I said earlier, like about half of our collection is works on paper, and they rarely see the light of day, and we have some amazing stuff in there. So, my hope is that with the collection more accessible online, we'll see more requests to use lesser known parts of the collection, and we can demonstrate that there's a need for an object study classroom, to the powers that be. And down the road, it's a little bit of a lofty goal, but down the road, it would be great to open that space up to, the Bridgeport community, the local middle and high school classes, who, we can collaborate with to pull objects that are related to, what they're learning in their history class, or what books they're reading, or, whatever the teachers are interested in exploring with them. So I'm going to wrap it up. It's this has been this entire project has been a lot of work for the two of us. It seems crazy that it's only been a year and a half that I've been here, because I feel like we've done quite a lot. But the grant funding and the contractors we were able to bring in through those funds made all of this possible. It was really a labor of love. But to see it sort of coming to a close, and seeing the website launch, the portal live, has definitely made it all definitely worth it. So thank you for your time, and thank you for listening. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much for that, Charlotte. That was wonderful. Folks, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, or if you would like to unmute yourself or come off video, whatever works best for you. We're a small, intimate group, so we have one right in the chat. How do you deal with copyright in online collections? Thanks.
That is a great question. I am actually taking the Creative Commons certificate course right now, because I was already aware of those issues. So right now we have sort of a blanket statement on our website, saying that many things are in the public domain in our collection, but many are not. If you're interested in using any images, you can contact us, but we don't have a rights and reproductions department or anything like that. So we can offer advice, but we can't hunt down copyrights for people. So we're starting to work on that workflow. It's a lot of information, and definitely very important. So yeah, good question.
Yeah, that was great. Also from Kiki, it's a tough subject to tackle. Thanks. I didn't know about the certificate program. Great. Yeah. I love when there's a little bit of additional information shared.
Yes, and they are so the course I'm taking just started last week, but they're offering another one in September. I don't know the dates exactly, but you could definitely go to their website. I'm doing the digital resources or something like that, but they also have ones for library and archives. So I don't know if you're in Connecticut, they are subsidizing the course costs through Connecticut Humanities. So you could reach out to them.
Yeah, that's a fantastic resource. Great. What other questions do folks have? Another question. Don't apologize, Kiki. Questions are always great. How large is your painting collection, and how long did it take you to digitize it again?
Yes. So we have about 700 paintings in our collection, which is about a tenth of, am I doing the math right? 700 of 7,000 objects in our collection overall. It took us a month. So we did four weeks straight of digitizing. I think we tried to hit between like 20 and 30 paintings a day. But again, that was like, I was not doing anything else at all. Catching up on emails in the evenings, if I had the energy. But you know, we were lucky enough again that we had the funding and the resources that I could just like go for 4 straight weeks to do that. You know, it would have taken a lot longer if I had to balance all the other aspects of my job. But I will say it was a great, it's a really great way to learn the collection. I had started in December 2022, and we did this project in February or March 2023. So I was still very fresh to the museum, but having to sort of prep for the project and then physically touch every single painting, you learn the collection really well and really quickly, which was also great because then I also got to sort of get a sense of the conditions of a lot of these paintings. Like I said, we're a school campus, so things are hanging in hallways. You know, they get bumped by backpacks or just crowds in the hallways. So I feel like it was intense, but really gave me a good foundation for caring for the paintings.
Yeah, it sounds like a really fascinating like crash course in like learning what you have and really making assessments in the moment. So
Yes.
yeah, that's great. That's a unique opportunity. I don't know many other people who are like 3 months into their job and like I've touched everything.
Yes, I'm very glad that we started with the paintings because it was a I won't say small, but like there was a concrete goal there. You know, we had talked about doing just high priority pieces, from paintings to works on paper to sculpture to, we have a bunch, I didn't mention, we have several ethnographic collections. So which I think, you know, would have been interesting, but more challenging because then you have to identify pieces within each collection. And then with the way that our photographer worked, who's very specific that he wanted to go from big to small. And when you have to, you know, when he has to constantly adjust his lighting and his setup for, you know, a small African mask to a giant Alex Katz painting, that's just going to be a huge time suck as well. So we were really trying to be as efficient and I think as pragmatic as possible on that project.
Yeah, definitely. So actually another follow-up question related to the photographer. Was the photographer somebody that you had contracted, or is it somebody already associated with the museum or the school?
Yep. So Paul Mutino had done work for the museum in the past. He doesn't work for the school or the museum or the state. He was contracted, but he had done like installation photography for past exhibitions and some high-res images for objects for like exhibition pamphlets that had been created by our previous director. So, you know, he was a known entity. We knew his reputation, the quality of his work, and he was awesome. I mean, he was just had great energy and was willing to really work with me to figure out the best course of action throughout this project.
Yeah. So I love the questions that are coming in kind of layered on top of each other. So did Paul's file name and conventions just work into your existing system, or is that another stage of the project? And Megan's asking that they lost internet briefly. So if you covered that.
Okay. Hi, Megan. I think I've emailed with you.
She's right down at Fairfield
That's
University,
right,
so
just down the
close by.
road.
Yeah.
So great question. There was an existing naming convention, file naming convention when I came in for Past Perfect. So I pretty much just followed that. And it was a very simple naming convention. So we don't do, which I would love to change, but it's way too much work. We don't use accession object numbers. We just do like 4-digit numbers that Past Perfect was automatically generating. So, you know, we have an object called object ID 5450. So the naming convention was just 4550 _1. And that was, you know, the first photograph for that object. So I think there were a couple objects, files that I had to go and adjust because, you know, like many museums, there was no object number on them when we pulled it. So I had to, you know, during the project when Paul was photographing, I would give him the object number. He would write it down so that when he went back to like process all of his photographs, he knew which object number to put into the file name. But there were some that I just didn't have the number for. So he would put in some, you know, descriptor or something. So there were like a handful of those that I had to go back into the files when he gave them to us. But for the most part, you know, I was lucky that there was a naming convention already in place. And we still have them on an external hard drive, but then they are now also, the files are now in the what do you call them? The storage, you know, the cloud-based storage within collective access too. Yeah, great question.
Oh, hi from Maine Maritime Museum. What an amazing turnaround for digitizing 700 paintings. I was curious on how you dealt with complying with FADGI standards, and if there was a dedicated imaging space.
So I'm not actually know what FADGI standards are, so I probably didn't comply with them. If someone can tell me what FADGI is.
Selena, I'm going to open that one up to you.
Or did she? Let's see what this is. Federal Agency Digital Guide. Oh goodness. So no, I did not follow these. I'm going to look into this afterwards, but so we to answer the second half of your question, we had luckily we're on a college campus, so we had a bunch of classrooms at our at hand. So I think we changed rooms 2 or 3 times because of, you know, different classes, schedules and everything. But Paul was really helpful and gave us just the checklist of what he needed in terms of setup. But it was really straightforward. It was just, he brought his lights, brought his camera. He had like strobes and a curtain for, you know, works that were glazed. So he was super helpful. But I'm embarrassed to say that I don't know about this initiative. So I'm gonna read that after this.
I think this is a benefit of a conversation like this, right? Where it can be sharing both ways. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
great. All right. And Kiki shared an additional list of the guidelines, or link to the guidelines.
Oh, great.
And yeah, we're getting plenty of links. Thank you for all of this.
Yeah.
All right. Do folks have additional questions? We have about 10 minutes left or so. this is always the conundrum because I've been a museum educator for a long time, so I have patience for the like any comments, questions, concerns. The patience that you grow when you're working with like 4th and 5th graders, I find. So I also realize that it is hot out and everybody may be having the first like brain melting day. All right. Well, I will say this. We have the last 10 minutes or so. If there are no more questions, we can duck off a little bit early. I will also tell everybody if you have ideas for upcoming conversations or questions that you have related to registrarial practices, collections care management. Emily, our PAG chair, has stepped off, but if you want to send them to me as upcoming ideas, I know that Emily is always looking for future planning and presentations. So feel free to send me an email and I'll drop that in the chat for you. And I'm happy to pass those along. And then finally, I want to say thank you to Charlotte for such a great presentation. This was great. And we did record today's session, so we'll have the link up online. So if you want to revisit in the future, feel free. And then Charlotte, are you comfortable if we share your email out with folks if they have questions and follow up? Is that okay with you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. Awesome. So yeah, so I'm happy to send out the link to this conversation with Charlotte's contact information, and then also Emily's in my email as well if you have any things that you'd like to see for the RACCS PAG in the future. So take care, everybody. Stay cool, stay hydrated over the next few days when it's going to be particularly hot. And we will see you again soon.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.